Benny, what's up, buddy? Welcome.
Thanks for having me here. This is very excited to be here today, and I've never really done a podcast,
What's
so
your first?
first,
Cool, man.
first, so I'm looking forward to it.
That's
And
awesome.
no
So
idea what to expect, but
let's wing it.
yeah, let's go.
Start off with, I guess, who you are, what do you do, how many kids you have?
Well, my name's Benny Caringi. I'm owner of Sun-Brite Drapery. Basically, do window coverings, custom window coverings, family business for 50 years. My parents started in '73 down in Oakwood Rogers area. Then I got involved as a partner really in 1987. Moved it up to Woodbridge area in Vaughan, where we are now. Basically, Jane and Seven, we've been there, probably 30 years or so. And we're not a traditional retail shop. We really specialize in the builder community, builder design firms. We definitely do retail, but we've grown it quite a bit since '87. And it's been a wild ride with my parents starting it, and then kind of my dad retired, I'd say maybe 15 years ago. But we've taken it to a different level now, about 25 employees, and we are going through some major changes, positive changes. And we can get into that as we keep talking about it. But I also have a charity, Hats On for Awareness, dealing with mental health. We're in year 16, and we have our big, which you've always been a part of.
Appreciate it.
And it's amazing. And we're having you back for this year's a big deal. It's our 15th gala.
Yeah.
So we're looking forward to that, October 18th. And father of three, got married in 1990. That sounds like an eternity ago. Been married 34 years.
Good for you.
My wife, Patty, I met her in high school. We'd been together. I knew her for 8 years before we got married, so it's a long time.
Cool.
But it's been great. And I have 3 kids, a boy, Zachary. He's now 31. I'm losing track. And 2 girls, Samantha, who is 30 this July, and my youngest daughter, Natasha, 28 or 29. But they're all very. We have 3 kids in less than 4 years.
Amazing.
And also grandfather of 3, which is still surreal. I do not feel that at all in terms of age. So I have 3 grandkids, 2 boys from Samantha and a little girl from Zachary and Diana. So Samantha and David have a little Liam and Grayson.
Yeah, I think I met them at your pool party.
Yeah, so
You're
and
legendary.
Natasha, my youngest, getting married this New Year's Eve.
Yeah, we were at that Stag and Doe.
Yeah,
It was really awesome.
Yeah, you save the date. You'll be attending.
There we go. Amazing. So let's take it back. You
Sure.
said you had a company that you kind of took over from your father.
Yes.
Was it expected that you're going to take it over? How did that even?
Yeah, you know what? I started when I was 12 years old, working with him. So by the time I hit the point of going to university, I really knew the business well, and I enjoyed it. So I really knew deep down in my heart I was going to continue on with him. So instead of going right to work from high school, I did go to York University, taking marketing courses, business courses, to really help develop that side of it. So yes, I did know I was going to do that. So
How was it working with your father?
actually, it was really good. He was a great mentor that way. He taught me a lot, that people always come first. Sometimes he'd worry so much about making sure we didn't disappoint them. So because that's really what grows any business, the relationships with your customers. So I think I owe him a lot for that, which kind of really developed into really who I am today. So from that's kind of how the segue to that, which is interesting I'm sure you're going to ask about Hats On, how that happened. But so one of our biggest clients way back then was CAMH.
Oh, wow.
So as a young 12-year-old going down to work there, it scared the hell out of me.
Yeah.
Right. To see people, and I didn't understand it. I was 12 years old. What did I know? But we're installing draperies there, and I was his helper, just kind of hold the toolbox, what have you. But seeing people in that state, and back then they didn't have good reputation for being down at 999 Queen Street. But I seen the different side of it, how I was like, how did these people end up here? So that opened my eyes a bit more so than a lot of my friends that really you weren't really subjected to any of that, seeing these people having all these mental health issues. So I learned a hell of a lot from being down there with him. And that kind of led me, I always share this story where we went in one room, my father's installing drapes, and the gentleman was really basically comatose in bed. But I'm looking at his desk and all these pictures of his family and all normal pictures that I'm used to seeing, yet here he is in this state. And that always stuck with me. And that, I think I looked at everything a little differently from that point on. Even with school, like I was always athletic, always part of the sports and, with the sports crowd. But back then in high school, I know we had, back then they called special ed students. And we'd always make sure that we protected them, right? Because there was a lot of bullying and all that crap. And that just drove me crazy. So I think deep down, maybe that helped seeing that side of how people are mean and cruel and how they can become in that state of mental health issues. But so I've always, it's been important to make sure that you treat people well.
Good for you.
Yeah.
So you started working with your dad. At what point did you have kids when you were in the business?
So our first, so at that point there was 93 was Zachary was born, 93, 94, 96. So 3 kids quickly in 4 years. So my wife was in the business.
Okay.
When we basically, in the Woodbridge area. And then she actually stayed home for 7 years with the kids, which was awesome. And I think very fortunate that she wanted to do that because I would never impose that on anybody. But I think it made a huge difference, right? Raising the kids. And she babysat another 4 or 5 kids. I mean, crazy times. And I don't even remember. It was just a blur. Yeah. It's like typers everywhere, kids everywhere. And yeah, somehow we made it work. It's like, I know we're going to get into that a little bit, but it's like, it goes by fast. It goes by fast.
So I guess she relieved a lot of pressure in terms of, because when you have your own business, you're working kind of all day and every day.
Yeah, there is no timelines. Didn't know what time you'd be home. I mean, you can't just, it's not a 9 to 5 type of scenario. And yeah, she was great that way in terms of supporting. It's always been, or else it doesn't work. Right? You have to make sure you're both on that same page of, you got to do what you got to do.
Sure.
Right.
Did it, like having your own business, did it affect your relationship with your kids in terms of how often you were able to see them? Or was it?
I made sure it didn't. Family to me has always been number one. So I made sure that I wasn't always working and prioritized that. I mean, I coached hockey, soccer for 10 years. I've really been involved with them. And all the school trips, I'd be that dad on the kindergarten trips and on the buses. Like, I love doing that.
That's cool.
Yeah, so I'm so fortunate I was able to do that, have my own business, but I always made sure I had a good team that would kind of back me up. Yeah, and I really enjoyed that part of it. And yeah, I made sure I spent time with them.
So you kind of said that you didn't really have any expectations. Like, did you have any or did your father have any expectations that you would take over? Or was it just, you mentioned naturally, you knew that this is what you wanted to do? And the question really here is, your kids, did you think, or are any of them in the business, or are they all doing their own thing?
So I think we always knew we'd be partnered up, and we officially became partners with, back then, my best man. We started in 87 as partners with Sun-Brite.
Okay.
Smaller percentage. Then that kind of didn't work out that way, but then my brother-in-law came involved for another 25 years from 1990 on. So we were always shareholders of the company together, which was great. So it was a true family business. And then basically how that evolved with my kids, nobody's in the business. I always told them that they will not be allowed to work at Sun-Brite until they're at least 30 years old, because I wanted them to experience working for other people.
Sure.
So now the opportunity is there. I have my nephew in the business. I have my son-in-law in the business. And who knows what the future holds with the restructuring that we're doing right now. That is a possibility. But I will never push them into anything. If they choose to, that's great, and it's totally up to them.
So talking about restructure, how did COVID affect your business? If it did.
COVID was our best year ever,
Wow.
and it made no sense. It went from 1 month of like everything, I'm going to lose everything, because you didn't really know what to expect, right? Then we became deemed essential as part of the construction industry,
Oh, great.
and then it just went crazy. So we've really built a great name, Sun-Brite, with the builder community. So that really made a big difference that we established.
So is it commercial or residential or both?
Both.
Both. Awesome.
Yeah, both. We actually manufacture window coverings in terms of the drapery side and the blind side. And the retail division. So it's multifaceted.
Awesome. And is it like manufactured in Canada or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's all local. It's
Amazing.
all local. Yeah.
Keeping it local.
Yeah, keeping it local. Yeah,
Wicked.
yeah.
I am Canadian. So then how did you get started with Hats On? I know you co-founded it, but at what point in your life did you do it? Where were you at in your life?
There was no thought process to that at all. That was just, and again, I blame my parents on that, because they've always been the same way. It's like people ask to do something. My first response is, sure, I'll help you. So way back when, 16 years ago, Enza Tiberi Kekya was, we're friends through the industry. So she had told me about her story about her father that passed away by suicide. And then somehow I brought up Cam H. That's a client of ours. And she says, oh my God, I really always wanted to promise to give back to my dad in his name and honor him. And then she kind of said, let's do something. I'm like, sure. I had no idea what. And then we just, the whole name came from her in terms of her idea with Hats On. And then we did a quick little party within 2 weeks. We did a mini fundraiser up in Vaughan, Next Door Lounge, owned and operated by Nick Lucchese of Ice Cream Patio, within 2 weeks. And we raised money just to put the deposit down for our first gala.
Amazing. Good
So that
for
first
you.
gala was Andrew Richard Design Studio. And from that point on, we just said, let's just raise some money and give back. And that's when we pledged $250,000 to Cam H over a number of years, and named a room after her father. And it just kind of really exploded from there. It's like there was no real set plan at the beginning, but then it grew fast.
Wow.
Then we had board of directors, and we kind of became an official charity 2 years later. And here we are 16 years later now.
So how did you do that while being a business owner and a parent? Like, because I'm sure that was a lot of work. And how much work was it? Like, if somebody essentially wanted to follow the same steps as you are, how much work is it to have a non-for-profit or a charity?
It's a lot of work. I'm not going to deny that, but you have to have good people around you, which we always did. And because to do something on your own, it's tough. Like, you got to surround yourself with really good people that are like-minded, that are on the same page. And I learned a lot from having a charity of how people have a different agenda. They all come across as they want to be part of that, but they really run it for themselves, to have their name on a board, and selfish reasons. So I learned about people more than I ever have, in terms of who's really there to support and who's really there to just benefit for themselves. So it's definitely a lot of work. But again, I'm just wired that way. I'm just always go, go, go. And I never really stopped to think about it, to be honest with you. And again, I'll blame my parents, because my father's the same. He's still 89 and just a machine, and just keeps going and never stops.
Are there any traits that you took from your father that you still use today with your parents, or with your kids? Sorry.
Any traits such as, what are you thinking?
Like, how was their parenting style? Like your mom and your dad, were they, like, I know they're old school, but were you able to go to your parents and say, hey, mom and dad, I'm having a hard time being a parent? Or was that something you just did not do?
Yeah, back then, it was back then, they worked a lot. They were heavily involved in their business. So They weren't around as much. But that's survival mode, right?
Yeah.
They didn't have anything as kids. Now they come here, opportunity. My dad's always been an entrepreneur, so he starts his business, and he put his heart and soul into it to be able to provide, right? He also brought other relatives over from Italy, so he always gave back, always had an association through Italy that he always gave back financially there as well, and ran kind of a different, not quite a charity, but a different organization here as well. But yeah, it wasn't like that back then, that you could actually just, hey, I'm like having a hard time. They still don't
Yeah.
completely get what hats on is all about,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, that's
Yeah, like
crazy.
my mom would, she'd be like, "Oh, that's great what you're doing," but if you tell her like friends are having some issues, their
Yeah.
mentality is like, "Well, they just got to get over it."
Yeah.
They I don't know if they'll ever understand it.
I wonder why. I was trying to do research and think like how this stigma began, and apparently it was to do with division of like this is specifically for men, but the division of labor where men worked and masculinity, and they can't say they're having a hard time because then people would see them as weak. But that's crazy.
But it's totally true, right? Because it wasn't talked about. Listen, when I was down at CAMH, it was even called the loony bin back then.
Yeah.
Like, and that was just normal. And you look back, it's like you wouldn't dare
Yeah.
say that now, and rightfully so. I mean, now you see the building's bells has their name on it, and Orlando Corporation's involved. They wouldn't. They probably supported back then, but never publicly. It was just the stigma was huge, and as a parent or what have you, can't. I don't think they even knew they were suffering,
Sure.
right? Because who talked about it, right? You don't talk about mental health. Even talk about it now, they kind of empathize, but they don't understand it, right?
Yeah.
They'll say so and so is they're always sick. They're always sick, and I don't understand why are they always sick, right? And they look at it in a way like, but why aren't they supporting? Why aren't they at this event? And I'm like, mommy, they're not well. They're not mentally well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's hard for them to fathom because they didn't have a choice. Survive, you have to be strong, but they don't understand the disease part of it in terms of it's an illness. It's an illness that is so complex, right? And it's got a long way to go. I don't think it'll ever be cured, so to speak. It's just how do you manage it, right?
Sure. And I don't know if they teach you this in school either, because like when I'm like grew up as a kid, everything is fun and games, and you're having sleepovers at your cousins and life is all dandy. And then when I got in my 30s, I'm like, man, this is all fading away. Your parents are getting older. Things are just different, not as fun anymore. And it's like no one really taught you how to manage the change of just life,
No,
because you're still young and you don't understand what life is when you're a kid. And then when you're I guess learning based on your own experience, but no one's kind of saying, hey, when you get older, you're going to start feeling stressed about money and relationships, and you're mentally going to feel exhausted. It's kind of feels like you're experiencing it by yourself for the first time and saying, oh, what is that feeling, right?
it needs to be in the schools, and it'd be interesting to research it if they're actually implementing it in the curriculum right from even kindergarten.
Yeah.
That needs to happen. You need to have once a week, once a day, even a half hour, anything to deal with real life, real drama, real issues of mental health. And what does that mean? Because those are future doctors, nurses, firemen, policemen that can change the world, because it's going to be the norm to understand and when people are suffering and going through tough times, as opposed to looking at them in a weaker way. And the bullying, all that has to happen from a very young age. It has to be in the schools
Yeah.
from day one, because then it should be normal conversation. So I think that helped me being involved in the charity with my kids big time, because I talked openly about it. So what would happen is we always entertained a lot of the parties at our house with the kids. Like we made sure they came over, like come and use the pool, and because I like to make sure that they're around. But because a lot of my kids' friends knew what I did with Hats On, they'd actually talk to me about themselves and or any issues they had. And some of them I knew, they say, I have a friend that's, and I knew was talking about themselves, but I would never confront them about that. But that, my kids seeing that made them more empathetic to their friends.
That's
And
nice.
yeah, so it was, but I didn't, it didn't dawn on me till certain things would happen and then my kids would talk about it openly.
Got it.
That's when I realized, like, wow, this is having a great effect on them as well, because I just talk openly. That's what I do. So it was no big deal to me in the sense of there was no stigma. Like, you talk about it.
And that's where like it broke between your parents and you, and now your kids and you,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because they're able to come to you and just say, I'm having a hard time parenting.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what I realized too is like, I'm so much more aware in the last couple of years, especially, of everything and people. But anxiety, like, it's so great that they say, you know what, that when this happens, I feel so anxious. So when you hear that, you kind of take a step back as a parent instead of like freaking out or what have you. It's like, oh, okay, we need to talk it through, because they're telling you, it's like, I'm not dealing with this well. It's just freaking me out. And then you kind of back up and deal with that. So I have my Samantha that has the two boys, and that's a huge challenge.
Hard.
She got huge support of my wife doing that with her and helping her get through that. Even my son lives in Kitchener, an hour away, but my wife will go there, hopefully once a week, to keep in touch with them, to see any challenges they have, but just to be in touch with them. And my youngest, Natasha, she's basically a social worker, and she's dealing with these issues all the time with people. And I'm thinking, it'd be interesting to ask her. I'm sure that has had an effect, and that's why she's in that field. She's really in the mental health field, right? And she talks to a therapist once in a while as well, because you know what? Who do you talk to? You can talk to us, which we're open to talk, but you need somebody professional, like, here's what I'm dealing with. How do I get through it? What's the next steps and what have you, right? So we're always learning. Listen, I'm learning so much from our kids, and we kind of serve each other that way. But it's been interesting. You don't realize the effects you have as a parent, as a role model.
Yeah.
Because we're just so busy. You don't think about stuff. You just go, right?
Sure.
But now it's like you stop and think about it, especially with the grandkids too. It's like it's a big deal, right?
I had to do obviously research coming in and having you here, and I read that it's so important that if you're a parent, and I guess not as a parent, but parent specifically for this example, because if you're feeling like you have stress and mental health, and you're not looking after your mental health, and your kids see it, they said that kids will mimic your feelings, and they will end up basically copying how you feel and not being able to control it. And I guess that's where you'll never break the cycle of how to prepare and how to deal with mental health. So that's just really important.
Yeah, so that's intriguing, and I do know one thing I've learned in the last little while is a good friend of mine has been teaching me, and he's been involved in the whole restructuring of Sun-Brite, Alan, and he said one thing that stuck with me, basically saying it's impossible for your kids to be happy unless you're in a good space.
Very
Because you made me think about that when you said mimicking.
Yeah.
So we worry so much about taking care of our kids. We got to make sure financially they're okay. They go through school, and we got to leave them, a house, inheritance, this and that. But we're so stressed with that our whole life. Meanwhile, we're not in a good space. And they're more worried about us because we're not in a good space. So how do they focus on themselves? So it's a vicious circle. So if you focus on yourself first, to be okay with what you're doing, make sure you have purpose and everything, they're going to follow that. If they see you in a good space, then they're not burdened with that, right? That's another thing, to unburden yourself with bullshit that you deal with every day that means nothing.
Leave
It
it
means
at
fuck
the
all.
door. Yeah.
It means nothing.
Yeah.
And that's where we keep growing with that side of it, where it's like unburden yourself with things, people that really don't serve you anymore. and that's one thing with my kids and I said, if your friends really are not serving you, what have you, why are you losing sleep over it?
Sure.
And I always say, are they in your life 3 to 5 years from now? Like, honestly, think about it. And they're like, well, no. Like, so who gives a fuck?
Yeah.
So you don't have to be mean about it, but it's like, you're always friends, you're cordial, whatever, but don't spend time on people that just suck the life out of you, right?
Sure.
So that's where you focus on the family and people around you and basically do that, right?
Even money and having like financial anxiety or, troubles, I guess you got to break it down. At the end of the day, what's the worst that can really happen? What's the worst that can happen? You lose all your money. Are you still okay? Can you still manage? Like, you'll get up. Everybody will always just, you'll recover. Like, it'll, like a mountain, up and
Yeah,
down.
that's
And
true.
I always try to break down my problems into just simple things, because stressing about it is actually not going to do anything for you.
No. You have to ask yourself, it's like, okay, even if you had the money, okay, what are you going to do with it?
Yeah.
And what's the purpose of it? Are you just going to party? You're going to go on trips? It's like, you still have the same issues.
Yeah.
So are you really utilizing it in a way that it means something, right? So, and that's been a big transition I've been involved with, right? Last probably couple of years, heavily with our whole restructuring of the company, in the sense of, and it actually ties into Hats On as well. I've hired a company, Legacy Financial, their financial equity firm, and they've been teaching us how to think differently, how to look at everything differently, how to think for yourself. And the question, even with Hats On, it's like, okay, so we raised all this money. Okay, so what does that mean? And, they'll say, well, and then what? It's like, well, what do you mean, and then what? We just do another gala. We raise hopefully $1 million. Fantastic. You guys are doing great work. And then what? So what that meant was, and then what is it for you personally? Why are you doing this? Right? So you take a step back to really look at it. It's like, Hats On has done great work, will continue to do great work, but is it serving me anymore? Sun-Brite as a company, is it serving me anymore? So I've kind of, without getting into too much detail because we only have so much time here,
Sure.
but refocused on how do I do what I love to do, but kind of unburden myself with all the stuff I don't enjoy doing. So by hiring this company to take over all, basically, the day-to-day operations of my company and Hats On, because that's something not even officially announced yet, but they will be taking that over to run all the operations, all the stuff that I do not enjoy doing.
Wow.
So they will be hiring people. They already hired new installers, salespeople, what have you. And why? Because then I can grow the business. I can do what I love to do, and that is to network and build my relationships that I've spent years building.
I love it.
And same with Hats On, right? So now we've created this a sales team with myself, Anna, my new executive sales director. I've known her forever. She's been helping the company refocus on structuring. My nephew Julian on the sales. So now the three of us will create this team. Don has been with me for 30 years, Santo 35 years. So we have such a good core, but now we can keep doing what we're doing. It's great. But now how do we elevate it, and why are we elevating it, right? So really that's how, and same with Hats On, we are in a different direction, which you're aware of, breaking barriers, but even that, we're going to challenge our entire board of what are we really doing, what do we really need to do, and let's do it quickly. So back to the Sun-Brite and redoing, all the big picture is how do we do what we love to do, why are we doing that, building relationships. It's not about window coverings. It's not about a charity as a foundation. It's about people.
Yeah.
Everything is about people. How do we impact the people in our lives that matter? So kids, to me, family is always number one. So how do we impact even our building relationships? All retail clients, doesn't matter. Blinds, they can go by anywhere, but that's not what we're doing. We're creating relationships that mean something.
Yeah.
So if the kids get involved in that, and as we're growing and building these relationships, the end game is, how do we impact our lives, us here today? What is this all about? It's about just a podcast? No, it's about finding like-minded people that give a shit,
Yeah.
that really want to change. Can't you say change the world? It's too idealistic. What have you. Change the people around you,
Yeah.
and if we teach each other that, you know what, you're gonna go do the same thing, and it just expands exponentially that way. So if we can figure that out, which we're on that journey, and it's been a while. We're only 3 months into the whole restructure.
Yep.
Hats On is just starting, but we've created these incredible relationships within our company, and now how do we kind of teach that to everybody that we're meeting? And is it a coincidence that you actually called me for the podcast and what have you, to be able to share the story?
Yeah.
Because that's really what we're doing every day now, and it's awesome,
That's wicked.
right? And it's like, even the Legacy Financial, which is a private equity firm that's involved with that, and like, he basically got involved with us personally first, and never told me what to do. I never hired him, haven't paid them a penny, but they want to help people.
That's great.
That's what they want to do. Same. He showed my wife, like, you should probably retire. And we're like, what do you mean retire? You can't retire. Within 2 months, she's retired, because he's like, okay, so to your point, like, you have this money. Okay, so if you take it away, can you do what you need? And we're like, yeah, I think so. Meanwhile, we had the grandkids and everything. She's spending time with the family, and it's completely different. We're closer now, and so it's just realizing what's really important. Going to work every day. We have to work. Money is a means to doing all that, but what is that number you need? And really, what if you're not happy? Like, what are you doing?
Sure.
But that's how we're conditioned. You just do what you do and see what happens, right? But now, how do we? That little move impacts my kids and impacts their kids and impacts our lifestyle and how we treat people. And all of a sudden, we're finding all these like-minded people that's like, oh my God, I feel that too, right? And it's been incredible, and it's just beginning, right? It's like the more people we meet, it's like, I want to be part of this journey, and that's what's happening. It's like, my plan is not to work forever, but if this is work, I'll do it forever, because it's like, that's work, like networking, meeting people, and building great friendships, relationships. And it helps too when you run into people, whether it's friends or business people. They don't serve me if they're not aligned. Like, it's okay.
Yeah.
Right. But I'm not. There's no future there.
Yeah.
Right. And that just kind of, everybody that wants to be around that, they're like, oh, I feel that now. How do I do that? And maybe that's our next steps of teaching people how to do that. Right.
I was going to ask you what can you tell us about the 15th year anniversary for the Haskerade? Is there any details you can give us?
You know what? So the beauty of that is I'm not even involved with that.
Okay.
In the sense of, I have Donna, who's been running that forever and has great, and that's the whole part of unburdening myself.
Got it.
Which is great. The feeling of not worrying about that is fantastic, because I know it's in good hands.
Amazing.
We have great entertainment as usual. You're going to be involved again as always, but I think what's going to be the big part of that night. It's always a good party, as you know.
It's amazing.
I think the messaging will probably be the most powerful. And it won't be long speeches, as you know, we're not into that. But how do we make sure that we're impacting everybody that's there that night?
For sure.
I don't even have that answer yet.
Amazing.
And that's what, the word impact, we even have a little group. We've already created the impact group, called Impact Project. And how do we impact people and things just come up that we just basically, as a small group, we're going to help them immediately.
Okay.
With a charity, it's a lot more red tape, what have you. But I think we're going to kind of pull it all in together and have a different approach. And it's in the early stages of that, but impacting people in a positive way is really what it's all about.
Well, I look forward to being a part of that one. I guess we'll switch to kind of understanding, like, can you give us advice on anyone who wants to be a parent right now, especially with mental health? What should they consider before being a parent?
what should they consider? So it's interesting times because I'm watching my kids on how it's all, they'll Google everything, right?
Yeah.
Where we didn't have that luxury of doing that. So it's tough for us to watch certain things because we're like, we don't understand it as parents. But my advice to be a parent is like, don't overthink it either, right? It's like, if you know deep down in your heart that you want kids, don't wait till forget it. You just jump in, and that stuff always works itself out.
So let me ask you, why do you want kids? And I was having this conversation with my friend. It's like once you have kids, you're just worried 24/7. And I get the love aspect of it because it's amazing. I love just having that connection with my daughter. But man, do you ever like stress out about everything? And things
You know what? Back then, you asked that. It's interesting because we didn't think about it. That's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to get married and have kids.
Got it.
Right? It's
okay.
like, and then once you're in it, you're like, you don't have time to think about anything.
Fair.
And that's where it's like 1, 2, 3 kids. Like when we had one kid, it's like, okay, that's a little. 2 was like, I thought that was like impossible. And then the third made me realize that 2 is a piece of cake.
Oh my God.
After 3, people say after 3, you might as well have 4 or 5 because it's a blur anyways. And I get it now. It would have been true. But we stopped at 3. But it's, the advice is, but I wouldn't see myself any other way to not have kids because the rewards of having that, yes, it's a lot of work. But if you didn't, I think back, it's like, listen, we come from that world, DJing and what have you. It's like, okay, so if you didn't have kids, are we doing that our whole life?
Well, look up DJ Bruno, but he's married and has kids, so it's a different story. I guess if I didn't have kids, you'd maybe even be more careless with your time because you're just on slow motion.
Maybe not. You know what I've learned with people? Like, there's no right or wrong to anything.
Sure.
So if deep down, you meet a partner that really wants to have kids, and you love them that much, and you're going to have kids.
Yeah.
Not thinking about, do I want kids? Because, like I said, I know I didn't really think about it. It's like I knew I wanted kids. Why? It's just you're supposed to have kids. But now looking back, I wouldn't even dream of not going down that road because the reward, it's a hell of a lot of work, financially, mentally, everything. But the reward outweighs everything, right? Because you look back on all the memories. Now, grandkids will just totally blowing my mind. It's like, the love for your kids is one thing. Grandkids is like, it's great because I laugh about it, but it's true. It's like you going home now? Okay, go home. Because you know what, when you get older, it's tough. Like it's a lot of work.
Was it hard for you to have? Obviously, you have in-laws. Was there ever any like conflicting scheduling where if you guys had like Sunday lunches, like how do you guys deal with like Christmases? How do you deal with conflicting schedules with the in-laws?
It's all I guess we've been fortunate that, we don't make a huge deal of it because it is hard to juggle all that. And you make sure you make it work with everybody, right? Because you have to respect both sides.
Sure.
So we kind of are a little bit more lenient that where it's like if they can't make it one day, so on my wife's side, for example, Christmas Day, we've always done Boxing Day for the Christmas or 2 days later after that, right? So you just make it work one way or another. And I think the respect is everything for that, to make sure that you don't lose focus of both sides of the family, that you have to make sure, as long as we're all together, some people, and as they grow with their own kids, it's a little tougher with their schedules, sleeping, what have you. But you know what? I think it's important to not get hung up. It's like, well, you have to be there at that time. That's our day. And if you do that, you're kind of missing the reality of life. It's just not that easy anymore. But we make sure we always get together. It's one way or another that we stay in touch. And I'm fortunate and blessed that, we decided to get a cottage up in Huntsville. And I think hopefully that's a meeting point, a reason for them to always come up and always stay together. I grew up with a cottage with my parents, and we've always been close as family that way, to stay in touch and make sure with the cousins, what have you, that we're always kind of somehow connected. But it's funny, though, you're asking these questions, I don't think we think of it. We just kind of do it. We've been taught that it's like family is everything. So, but don't make it a burden either, right?
Yeah.
always just manage your time. And you're going to have those days. Like, listen, before Hats On, I don't know how many times I'd be like, I'd have what I called, I was in a rut. Well, you know what? That was probably close to depression, maybe sometimes. I didn't know. And then you kind of goes away. Then you have your good days, and then you're like kind of dragging your feet for who knows how long, because we weren't aware of it. We didn't talk about it. And then once you start getting involved, it's like, oh, is that what that was? And then you realize, you know what? It's tough. It's not easy. And it's been challenging for me being involved in charity, because I get a lot of calls, friends and strangers that, for advice and what do I do, and and it's hard to balance the two. But I've learned to, I can't get pulled in. I just can't, because that'll affect me. It'll affect my family, and that's why we have the resources on our website, and hopefully redoing things and how do we impact it, how do we deal with it. That's an ongoing process. There's no real black and white answer to that. But it's life is never dull.
That's for sure.
Especially with kids, right? But I'm intrigued with you in terms of the Daddy Day Club. I'm going to flip this on to you. What inspired you to do that?
I guess for me, it was first being a DJ. I knew I wasn't going to do that forever. And I kind of wanted to shift my focus, and I wanted to show off that I was a dad. This is a new chapter of my life. And then once the time was getting closer to having my daughter, I'm like, oh, I'm scared. Like, what am I going to do? Like, how am I going to, will I have time to do anything I want anymore? And then I was talking to my good buddy, Nick Regina, and it just came out of my mouth. I'm like, I was asking him for advice, and I just said, well, welcome to the Daddy Day Club.
Oh, really?
And right when I did that, I went on GoDaddy and bought the domains and did all that. But I essentially just wanted it to be a reminder to never give up on your dreams. Just because you're a parent doesn't mean you stop living life. And I guess that is the scariest thing before becoming a parent, that now I know it's not a stop still. You can still do everything you want to do.
100%.
Just manage your time well, and have those who support you, have a small circle, and just don't get confused about what you want in life. And although that does happen a lot, just try to stay focused. And like you were saying a lot, got to reevaluate where you want to be and do it for me, I like to reevaluate every 6 months and see, what's going to happen. What do I want 3 years and 5 years, and short-term goals. But Daddy Day Club for me is just kind of my new hobby. Mm-hmm. And I call it a hobby because if it's a business, and this might be wrong, but I don't want it to take away from my family time. I already have a job. Mm-hmm. I DJ, and this is supposed to be fun. I now want to, bring in guests and talk to people and kind of hear their stories about parenthood. Mm-hmm. Because if I'm a new dad, I kind of want to get an idea of how it feels like, for example, for you now that all your kids are married. Do you feel different? I'm going to kind of throw it back on you. Mm-hmm. Do you feel different as a father now? Is it less load, but maybe mentally more, worrisome because they're not in your life that much anymore, as much as they were, from 0 to 12 and then 12 to high school and et cetera?
You know what? I don't look at it that way. I don't look at it as a load or thinking about some more work, what have you. It's like every day's a different day, and there's curveballs all the time, whether it's business or especially family life. But I think I've learned to embrace it and enjoy it and use everything as a teaching moment. Both sides of the coin, in terms of your kids are going through stuff, even marriage, in terms of, listen, we had 2 marriages during COVID.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And my kids I'm so proud that they still went ahead with it, endured through that. There's a lot of challenges. But at the end of the day, they were clear why they wanted to get married, and went full force, and we supported that. So I don't look at it as like, I didn't get involved. It's like, no, don't do that, and enforce what I maybe thought, well, let's wait for COVID to go by. Like, that's what you want, go with it, right? I think Hats On has helped me with that, to kind of empathize with people that way, and that just deal with everything that comes your way. And it's not the end of the world. Nothing's the end of the world.
Yeah.
Like, some days it feels like hell. Like,
Yeah.
it's like, what the hell? Like, and then tomorrow, and it's like, why did I get so stressed about that? It's stupid.
Sure.
But it takes time to get to that. You know what's great about, listen, you're impacting people, whether you know it or not, you're impacting people just by doing this in your Daddy Day Club. And people always said, oh, Benny, you're doing great work. And I always felt hypocritical because I couldn't directly help people. Yet I knew we were, and we still do, but how do we really help them one-on-one?
Sure.
And as an individual, I can't do that with hats on. It's too big. But maybe if I do it differently with different groups of people and what we're doing here, that's how we impact people, right?
Yeah.
And don't make it a job, to your point, right?
Of course. And I like
Have fun
that.
doing
Yes,
that.
totally.
And it's like, hey, you know what? What do I do? What have you? It's like, and that's a great conversation to have. If you can help people that way, you're impacting their lives. And then they impact their kids and their friends. And it's like, what's Daddy Day Club? And that's where I challenge you, think outside the box and do an event where, you know what, we're all there getting together, dads,
I really want
grandparents,
to.
right? It's like a social event. No brainer. It's easy to do. It doesn't have to cost much to do it. Just while you're there, just to share stories.
And maybe one day we can have a Hats On for Awareness and Daddy Day Club collaboration. You never know.
100%.
You know what I mean?
Tonight I'm having, I'm not hosting it, but our Impact Project is hosting it, where we're just getting together and just to like-minded people and just share stories. 30, 40 people, probably have a game on, what have you, and go from there in terms of, yeah.
I'm going to leave you with 2 more questions because
Sure.
I think we're out of time. Question number 1. If you can have anybody perform at your wedding, who would it be? Dead or alive? Artist.
Oh, wow. Where'd you come up with that? Any perform at a wedding. Where'd you come up with that one?
Bruno
That's
said
good.
Rolling Stones.
Rolling Stones, no. If you're gonna go down that road, perform at my wedding. That's probably an easy one. Then U2.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
They were in Las
U2.
Vegas. That was a sick show.
Yeah, my wife and I went down there in November.
Oh,
It's like let's
amazing.
do or December to see that fantastic
Yeah, I
show.
heard.
And you know what? They're so impactful. U2, right?
Yeah.
Bono from day one. They're just inspirational. And if it's a party vibe, I'd probably go Pitbull.
All right. I was thinking the same thing.
Right?
That's cool.
It's like, but
Yeah.
U2 is like more meaningful. But
Sure.
yeah, that'd be a toss up. I mean,
right.
can I do both?
There you go. You
Can
can do
Pitbull
both.
open up for U2 or
Done.
vice
Done
versa?
deal. We'll set it up. Last question. Who do you think I should invite next?
Oh, wow. Really? That's a great question in terms of our circle or just anybody.
I guess, realistic.
Oh my God, nobody really comes to mind. Within, I guess I'm trying to stick with our circle, but I guess it wouldn't have to be. And the premise of always fatherhood, or
Yeah.
just
Yeah. I'd prefer that way we can kind of get a gist of their experience as a dad.
as a dad. That's a great question. You're stumping me on that one, which is interesting because I don't normally get stumped. As a father, who would I look up to that way? That is there somebody I'm looking up to, or not necessarily?
Anybody. Bruno said Monaco, but which would be interesting to get a
I-
perspective because he doesn't have kids, which would be very interesting.
I think Tony's a no-brainer to have on with you because I've seen him how he has a total passion for his work, but he's such a people person. He
Yeah.
gives back. Him and Ramina give back like
Oh, definitely.
huge, right?
That's it. We got to go with Monaco.
Yeah, I mean that's a no-brainer that way. I think I like that choice.
Hopefully his fee won't be too much. All right.
I think Tony would definitely be a good one, but yeah, I got to think about that one because
right.
I think we'll take that one sidebar. You know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking because I'm in this whole thing of impacting and everything on the journey I'm involved in right now, and there's so much opportunity there that to have the whole impact of people. I think we should continue that and maybe revisit.
Sure. Sounds good, buddy.
After I introduce you to our new movement, because we are creating a movement,
Awesome.
and I think you'll pick somebody from our impact project
Sounds good to
that
me.
you'll want to interview. I think you should go on a female route.
Yeah, that would be interesting. I was
Yeah.
looking into coaches and those who, you know, teach others how to like, I think it was like behave with your children and stuff like that. I think it's really
Yeah.
important how to handle your kids. But Benny, appreciate.
No, but even with your daddy date club aspect, from a female's perspective, what you're doing, I think
yeah,
would be
that would definitely be
interesting.
interesting.
Yeah.
I'm gonna bring your wife, see what she says about you. All right.
No
All right.
pressure there.
Benny,
I
thanks
thank you
for
for your
having me,
time.
man.
Thank you.
We'll make sure we at the end of this podcast put out some links on
For
sports
sure, and I'll
and,
share it and I'll support you.
yeah.
100%.
Awesome, man. Thanks for
Thank you,
having
my
me,
friend.
man.